be a little bit unclear what that means. Other groups call them lightning talks. It's basically an opportunity for you all in the group to come up and talk for 5 to 15 or maybe 20 minutes about some topic that interests you and tell us what's interesting about it, or even about your personal story and advice that you might have for the rest of us. So those of you who haven't done one yet, if you would like to, we do this every month at the end of the month. So let me know or Daniel know if you would like to do this in the future. If you're not on our meetup, there's a link, and we're also on Twitter, so please follow us to get announcements about the group. We're here at Starspace 46, which is an awesome co-working facility. I'm a member here, so I can tell you about it if you're interested. Ava, who runs our streaming for us sometimes, is the community manager here, and so she would be glad to give you a tour and talk about rates and all that. You can find a calendar of their events on their website. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook to keep up to date with all the events they have here in this event center. There's one going on practically every day, it seems, a user group or some other event happening here. We're happy to be supported by Techlahoma. They support user groups around the state, improving community and education in tech, and you can find a list of the user groups they support on their meetup page. And again, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are great ways to keep up to date with what they're doing. Slack. I would definitely recommend, if you're not in our Slack, to go to this link and sign up. There are channels about all sorts of different things, and one of them is Free Code Camp. There's also design, JavaScript, jobs, general tech talk, random about whatever that's not tech that you want to talk about. If you have any questions or problems getting on to that, let me know. I'm at Kimberly Collins in the Techlahoma Slack, and I can help you get set up if you have any questions. We stream our user group meetups to Twitch, and then those eventually make their way to YouTube. Volunteers get those videos exported to YouTube. So you can see past meetups of our group and also other user groups like the Java group, the JavaScript group, C#, all sorts of different groups that are part of Techlahoma that maybe you can't make for lunch. You can watch them live or later on Twitch and YouTube. Immediately after our meetup today, the Nerdy Girls Code Club is going to be meeting at 2 o'clock in the Holodeck conference room. We're going to be going over SQL. Caitlin Stewart is going to be giving us just a brief introduction into SQL and databases. So any women should definitely check that out. We meet once a month. Next week is Independence Day weekend, so we're not going to be meeting. Anytime there's a holiday, we're just going to take a break. Spend time with your family, catch us on Slack, work on your free code camp projects and all that, but we're not going to be meeting here physically next week. And then starting on the 9th, we're going to have a few weeks in a row where we do have some material planned, but we would take any topic suggestions that you have, things that you are interested in learning about, let us know, and we'll try to schedule those. Actually, I think the 23rd is already taken. I didn't update this. But the 9th and the 16th, and we just meet every week, so anything you want to learn about in the future, we can try to schedule. And then the 30th of July, we're going to be doing this setup with Campfire Talks again. So those who haven't done it yet, or it's been a while since you've done one, and you're ready to do another talk, or even your very first talk ever, that's why we're here, to support each other and give you an opportunity to do your very first talk. So today we're going to have Andrew speaking first, and then Eric, if you're ready, and Kate after that. If we do have time, we'll do questions and answers. People on Twitch can actually ask their questions, and we'll try to get them to the presenters. If you're comfortable taking questions, you don't have to. If we have time for that. We do have 3 good talks today, and so we're going to go ahead and get started with Andrews right now.
Thank you. Oh, good, it's working. Okay, my name is Andrew Norman. I'm a software developer. That was the old date for the presentation. I'm a software developer for a startup called Carpe. And today I'm going to be talking about Vim. There's a good chance that a lot of you have heard about Vim. Maybe some of you haven't. Vim is and I'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So what is Vim? Vim is a text editor that runs on almost every platform you can imagine. It's on Windows, it's on Mac, it's on Linux, it's on BSD, it's on Android, it's on FreeDOS, it's on OS 2. I don't know why it's on OS 2, but it's on OS 2. It's geared primarily towards software developers, but there's also system administrators that love it, probably because it runs through the command line. It's old, it's 25 years old. It's based on an even older program that comes from the 70s called Vi. But there's good reason to love it even today. It's also been described as the most evil text editor in history. Probably by an Emacs guy. Actually, more than likely by a Notepad++ guy. I can't really teach you how to use it in one presentation. That's really why I'm calling this an invitation. It's not really a, here's how you use it. just so you can see what it is, see why it's useful. So why would someone be interested in using it? For one thing, editing text becomes incredibly quick. You never switch from keyboard to mouse while editing text again, so I don't know if maybe I'm one of the few people strange enough to notice this, but I realized that moving my hand from my keyboard to my mouse made a big difference in time. So being able to go instantly from one place in the file to another without having to use a keyboard or to hit the down key 4 million times made a pretty big difference. Another really good advantage of this is that it can be used from the command line very easily. This is very, very convenient for many situations. Take, for example, the company that I'm working for right now. I don't actually have a local dev environment. I don't really need a local dev environment. I just log on through SSH to their servers, and I just do everything I need from there. So that makes it really, really convenient just to be able to have the knowledge of how to use something like Vim. Can really open up new worlds of things that you're able to do because you're able to work through the command line much more. It also still has some of the most useful features of modern text editors, like it's got split screen, it's got encryption, it's got code folding, you can save sessions. I use that all the time. And another thing that's really nice about this is that it's scriptable. So there's actually a long history about this that I don't have time to go into about Vi versus Emacs. But if you like creating scripts like in Bash or PowerShell, making your own tools to automate certain tasks, then you'll feel the same way about Vim script functions. By the way, Vim script is also sometimes called VimL. I've actually seen people give presentations using only Vim through a plugin to display slides instead of something like PowerPoint. It's probably not a good idea, but they did it. You can actually run console commands from within Vim too. That means if you write a script, you have some kind of an automated command, then you can call an outside program. Like for example, I just recently made a program that I needed to get some random strings, and it needed to be very, very good random strings, so I used /dev/random, which is an outside program. So it's so that I don't have to worry about pseudo-random numbers being not good enough. And also, FYI, good coding practices still apply to Vim script. So if you write your own tools, be sure to write them well. And if you look at my GitHub, do as I say, not as I do. And it's also got built-in regex functionality. This is also something that you'll see in more than one editor. A lot of editors have this, but in Vim, it's almost like you're using it a lot. You're using regex a lot. That makes it so you get pretty comfortable with regex pretty quickly. There's some weird quirks in it, but for the most part, it's pretty similar to Perl, but you have to escape things in kind of a weird way. And Perl's the best regex syntax that I know of. And if you like IDEs, you can actually use Vim alongside IDEs without much of a problem. I did this with Visual Studio. So I had a C# project where I had one virtual desktop that had Visual Studio open, and I had another virtual desktop where I had Vim. So I would just switch back and forth between them and reload the file on Visual Studio. Visual Studio is about the only IDE that I don't hate, so I probably could have done it without Vim, but it worked out pretty well. Now, one thing I do have to be upfront about is that this is an invitation to use Vim. I'm not going to be offended if you decide you hate the very idea, because it's really not for everybody. And it's not a matter of how intelligent you are, it's just how your mind works. For some people, it fits very well, for some people it doesn't. It's also the most unintuitive program I think I've ever used. You'll find that you get dangerous with it pretty quickly, and that should be and, not but. And you'll learn more and more and get better and better as time goes on. So at first, you're going to feel like you're trying to, climb a smooth wall whenever you first start using it, but eventually you'll find that it takes a surprisingly short amount of time to get interested in it. It'll be most effective for people that type quickly. I know that a lot of developers probably spend more of their time thinking than typing, so developers aren't really known so much for being able to type quickly. For me, I can type on a good day around 90 words a minute. I'm usually closer to around 80 more than likely. But so just because of that, that helps me to learn. That helps me to being able to type quickly helps you to be more effective at Vim, I think, because it's a very keyboard-centric program. So how can I learn Vim? There are boatloads of tutorials online. They won't help. There are tons of YouTube videos. They won't help. And the reason why they won't help is because learning how to use Vim is not like learning how to use a programming language. It's almost like learning how to swim. So you can't learn how to swim by reading books or watching YouTube videos. You can try, and you might learn a few good things about swimming, but it's not going to be all that helpful. Really, to learn how to use Vim, you just need to start using Vim, which brings me to a program called Vim Tutor, which is actually not much more than a plain text file that you open inside of Vim. And this will get you started. From there, you'll be able to, once you can get like the basics of just like being able to do anything in Vim, from there you'll be able to look up the new features, look up how to do different things as you go along, and then you'll be able to learn more and more. And now I will cut to show examples for Vim. So this is Vim. They have a Vim. They have a Vim GUI program, but I'm not using it. I'm just doing it through a terminal. In Windows, I go ahead and use it in the. I go ahead and use the program called gvim. So this is just briefly some examples of Vim. So, and I'm running out of time actually. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and set the fold level equals to 0. And now we'll go down. One thing you'll notice that when I'm at the very top, I could just hit 7 down, and I instantly go down 7 lines from where I was. I'm going to zoom in. That's actually smaller than I thought it would be. So that way I can quickly move from one line to another. I didn't have to hit the down key several times. I just went ahead and set exactly where I needed to go. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add quotation marks around all of these strings, and for a lot of text editors, you just have to go through each individual line and just add the quotation marks. So I quickly did it like that. And then I can go ahead and, instead of having to go down each individual line or write a macro or something, you can write macros in Vim, and record macros as well. I just went ahead and did a command that did the whole thing on every single line. So now, here's an example. Let's say someone wrote this and didn't understand why it's important to indent. So instead of having to highlight every individual line, I just hit 3 keys and the whole thing is indented correctly. The next thing I want to do, and this is not something a lot of developers do, but I like to line these up correctly, so I wrote a Vim macro that goes ahead and lines these up all according to the semicolon. And I could also do the same thing. So this is not a built-in Vim functionality. This is just something that I thought was important, so I wrote something in there to do it. So now I think that makes it a lot easier to read. So I do things like I have custom functions like that to do to work things out. Okay. So now let's say I actually set no wrap. So disable word wrap. So here's an example of a doc block, but that description is way, way too long. So what I have is, I want it to cut off there, right where it says, right where it says brief. I want it to cut off, so I have a custom function that just goes ahead and indents it wraps it correctly. And I can go ahead and that function is called star d star, which adds or removes stars to doc blocks. So now let's say, okay, so I've got this string that says the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. I can, if I'm at the very top of it, I can jump immediately to over by doing 2/over and just hitting enter. That means go to the second instance of the word over in the document. And now I can do, I want to delete from fox to dog, but including dog. So I do d/dog. Very quick way to delete exactly what I wanted to delete. And now I'll do, I'm kind of running out of time. So I would think I'll go ahead and skip the regex stuff just because I don't want to take up any more time than I have. But hopefully you can just get an idea of a lot of this is, I've heard it described as Vim is almost like editing documents through sheer force of will. Because once you understand the way the individual commands work, you can really do a whole lot very, very quickly. I was also going to do a macro, but I think I'm going to skip on that too. So since I'm pretty much out of time, I want to go ahead and cut to this. So there's a book called The Pragmatic Programmer, and one of the things that he says in there, it's two people, saying there is use a single editor well. And of course, it could be Vim, it could be Emacs, it could be Notepad. It doesn't really matter as long as you're very, very familiar with it. That way, you can be very flexible in dealing with a lot of different situations. Okay, so you can ask me questions, but we're probably out of time. So here are my websites. All right, thanks. Anybody have any questions or that are very, very, very quick? I have tried that. It never works out well for me because there's just the features that they have are just too limited. That's why I prefer. Once upon a time, I had to use at my last job. I had to use a PHP program called PHP Storm, and the extension that gave me Vim key bindings was the only thing that made that horrible, horrible program tolerable. But even then, I'd much rather just use a plain Vim in side by side with an IDE. It just seems to have fewer problems. So, that being said, if you want to use it, I'm not going to stop you. The what? Oh, yeah, yeah. See, that's why I have that. That's why I have that that code that does it automatically for me. I can add and remove those whenever I need to. Yeah, I know. So you need to do something about that. All right. Okay, thanks.